The Turkish lira continues to bleed against the dollar as Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu traveled to the US to reassure insecure investors that the decline of the lira is momentary, despite President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's endless bashing of the central bank and its governor, Erdem Başçı. Underlining that the dollar has been gathering strength not just in Turkey but around the world, Davutoğlu denied the existence of a Turkish currency crisis and blamed the country's exchange rate fluctuations on the international markets. Flanked on his trip to New York by Deputy Prime Minister Ali Babacan and Finance Minister Mehmet, Davutoğlu told reporters on Thursday that meetings with investors were productive. Despite Davutoğlu's attempts to soothe the nerves of foreign investors, the Turkish lira hit an all-time low, surpassing 2.6347 to the dollar, spurred on late in the day by the U.S. non-farm payrolls data supporting the case for a rise in U.S. interest rates in the coming months. Markets believe a strong U.S. non-farm jobs report could prompt the U.S. Federal Reserve, Fed, to soon increase U.S. interest rates, a move that would further boost the dollar, in turn hurting demand for non-interest-bearing assets such as gold and other local currencies. Economists claimed that Davutoğlu's attempts to salvage the Turkish lira failed as Citibank sold its 9.9% shares in Akbank, worth some $800 million. Citigroup sold its near -10% stake in Turkey's Akbank for $1.2 billion, the U.S. lender said on Thursday, its latest disposal of overseas assets to cut costs and boost capital. Citi, which had been the second largest shareholder in Akbank, said the sale would not have a material impact on its finances. Akbank is Turkey's fourth largest listed lender by assets. The lira's demise has intensified in the past few months as investors have been rattled by Erdoğan's demands that the Central Bank of Turkey should cut interest rates to boost growth ahead of key parliamentary elections, challenging textbook economics that the move won't hurt the lira and inflation. Sali Sakebok, the deputy chairwoman in charge of economic affairs of the Republican People's Party, CHP, told Sunday's Zuma on Friday, every time Erdoğan speaks, the dollar gains value against the Turkish lira. I don't know what his ulterior motive is, but we do know who has been stockpiling stashes of dollars in their showboxes and their safes. Bok's reference was to Şuleyman Uslu, the former head of Turkey's state-owned Halkbank, who made headlines as one of the main suspects of the graft probe that went public on December 17, 2013. Uslu is infamous for the $4.5 million in cash that was found stuffed in showboxes found in the ex-Halkbank CEO's home. Uslu subsequently denied any allegations of corruption and claimed that the money was intended for charitable purposes. Furthermore, TL 400,000, 300,000 euros and $100,000 were found inside 7 safe boxes in the home of former Interior Minister Muammer's son Bargullah. In January 2014, the central bank intervened to rescue the lira, which had fallen to then record lows of nearly 2.4 against the dollar. The lira, which has lost some 10% of its value so far this year, was also trading at its lowest since January 2014 against a euro forward/dollar basket. The central bank substantially hiked overnight borrowing and lending rates, which helped stabilize the falling lira at the time. But the bank's subsequent rate cuts have failed to satisfy. Erdoğan frequently claims that high interest rates are the cause rather than the result of high inflation, contrary to basic economic theory. Bok said of Erdoğan's constant meddling with the central bank and its policies, "My political identity is telling me that one should not give weight to crisis speculations. But then, those who are governing Turkey are those who are inducing these crises." Babacan, speculated to resign, PM says out of the question. Rumors have been circulating recently that Turkish Central Bank Governor Ba, who is a childhood friend of Deputy Prime Minister Babacan, whose opinions and style have conflicted with those of Erdoğan in recent months, are getting ready to submit their resignations after Erdoğan's unflinching assault. Babacan, who is responsible for the economy, is a respected expert and among those largely credited with spurring Turkey's economic growth. Ba, who was awarded the title Central Bank Governor of the Year 2013 by The Banker, a monthly financial affairs publication founded in 1926 by the Financial Times, has recently been under a volley of fire from Erdoğan, a longtime advocate of loose monetary policy, for not cutting interest rates more sharply and quickly. Davutoğlu said earlier this week that Ba and Babacan's resignations were out of the question, although speculation still exists as to whether the influential policymakers will be around following the upcoming general election. Erdoğan, who is well known for his strong aversion to high interest rates, has warned that defending high interest rates amounts to treason, while ratcheting up pressure on the central bank and telling Governor Ba to shape up. Erdoğan had said in February, "It is called an independent board, but this is where we end up. We have to be at a better place, we have to succeed in this," also reiterating his view that inflation would fall when rates are cut. Interest rates are what shape inflation. If you keep the rates high, inflation will be high too, but if you cut it, inflation will also fall. There are still people who don't understand this, the Turkish head of state had proclaimed. Following the central bank's most recent rate cut last week, which brought overnight rates down to 10.75%, Erdoğan expressed his dissatisfaction by implying that Ba had sold out his country. Erdoğan believes that high interest rates are the product of a foreign interest rate lobby seeking to demean Turkey's economic success. It is absolutely perverse how Turkey's policymakers have been driving this attack on the central bank, in an effort to force rates lower. If politicians had stayed quiet, there was a very good chance of a dream scenario panning out for Turkey with lower oil prices and high base effects, deflation, forcing inflation forward/the current account deficit, CAD, lower and leaving really significant scope for rate cuts even without verbal intervention from the Erdoğan team, said Standard Bank's Timothy Ash in an emailed note on Thursday. Top economic advisor to Erdoğan, dollar fluctuations birth pains of new world. It seems an unlikely coincidence that after every speech in which President Erdoğan targets the central bank that the Turkish lira's value against the dollar goes through the floor, setting records daily. The picture became a little clearer after Yurt Bulut, the chief advisor to Erdoğan, spoke to the pro-government Akşam Daily on Friday, stating that the fluctuations in the dollar are the birth pains of a new world. Bulut added, "In the world's search for a new equilibrium, all of the underlying economic and sociological factors must be analyzed carefully. There is a certain movement in Turkey regarding the dollar exchange. But blaming all of these fluctuations on domestic dynamics is not right." The top economic aide to Erdoğan said on Friday that he will be going to the US to explain the new paradigm regarding interest rates to the likes of Citibank, Apple Incorporated and Coca-Cola Corporation in Washington, D.C., this coming week. Bulut, who proposes cutting ties with the European Union and creating economic blocs that are alternatives to the Western system, has been harshly criticized by finance circles due to his controversial opinions. Erdoğan appointed Bulut his new chief economic advisor after the Gezi Park demonstrations, a wave of protests in Turkey that began in 2013 to prevent the ruling Justice and Development Party, AK Party, from following through with plans to redevelop the park in central Istanbul. Regarding Bulut's statements, Boke said, "Yes, it is known that there are new formations after crises. The AK Party, itself is a product of such a post-crisis formation. If they, the AK party, think that they can renew themselves through such a crisis, the fallout of such a plan will be disastrous for the country as well as signal their AK party demise.